Hey, hello everyone. So today I'm very excited because we're gonna go over some explanation, tips, and tricks about frames, or also known as borders in AutoCAD. So basically, you probably already face this situation where your frames are not turning on or off, maybe for your images, for your PDFs, and so on. This is very common because there are so many different types of frames here in AutoCAD, and we need to remember all of these commands or settings or system variables so we could work more efficient. Well, in today's video, my plan is to go over all of these different types of frames or borders, and also give you some troubleshooting tips and tricks. And finally, I'm gonna create a brand new command for you that is gonna perform it's gonna turn on and off or toggle all of your frames or borders here in AutoCAD. So you don't have to remember commands or settings or anything. You're simply gonna click once and then all of your frames will be on. If you click one or another time, all of your frames will be off again. All right, so that's the plan for today. And so let's start. All right. So before we start today, let's see if there are some questions or comments on the chat. We have 4 people watching. Thank you for being there. That's awesome. We are live on Facebook as well as on YouTube and Twitter. So thank you for being here. If you are new to the channel, this channel is all about creating different ways to save time in AutoCAD, right? Either showing you tips and tricks, creating new dynamic blocks, or customizing AutoCAD to, stop wasting time here inside this program. All right, so this is our channel, the Lazy Arquitecto. That's our goal. And if you believe on that, if your time is important, then you should subscribe, because we always do these live streamings each week. So, all right, so if there are no comments or questions at this time, we're going to start. And of course, you could also ask during the live stream as well as by the end of this video if you have any question. Okay, we have one comment from Imran Kamar Udin. He said, hi Imran, thank you for being here on this live stream. It's always nice to know about you guys. Where are you from? Right now I'm here in the US. This is Pennsylvania. So thank you for being there, Imran. All right. So I think we are ready to start to talk about borders or frames, right? That sometimes they give us headaches because they are stubborn. They don't turn on, they don't turn off. And we're going to try to simplify your life today, okay? So, like I explained, we're going to do 3 things today. First, we're going to go over all of the different type of frames and borders inside AutoCAD. Second, we're going to give you some tips and tricks and troubleshooting techniques so you won't waste time trying to figure it out why your borders or frames are not turning on or off. And finally, we're going to create this awesome command. I call it LazyFrame, that basically will toggle all of your frames on and off quickly with a single click. All right, but before doing that, we need to understand all of these different type of frames, as well as know some troubleshooting tips. Okay, so let's start then, if there are no more comments, with the first type of frame or border here in AutoCAD, and this is the image frame. Yes, so many of you probably already know, I added an image here. It's just me, but whatever, it will serve the purpose of this example. So image frame, I have my quick property over here. As you can see, this is a raster image, and right now the frame, of course, is on. You can see the yellow border. So to turn this image frame off, we simply need to use the image frame like so, and then we have the option to pick either from 1 to 2. To turn it off, simply we're gonna pick the 0 option. So once you do that, you can see that the frame for your image will go away. Okay, so that's the first type of frame or border here in AutoCAD that you probably already know, but it is always nice to know all of these type of frames. Okay, again, image frame, if you set it to 1, it will bring the border on again as you see it. Okay, so the second type of frame here in AutoCAD is called the DWF frame. So we don't have a DWF file right now here in AutoCAD, but it is basically a smaller version of a DWG file that we use here in AutoCAD. And it is used by other programs, of course, because it is smaller, so you can send it easily to other people. Okay, so but if you were using it, you will have to use the DWF frame, like you're seeing it right now, DWF frame, and of course set it to either 0 or 1. Again, I don't have a DWF file in this drawing, but it is always good that you know that a way to turn the frames for this different type of CAD file. Okay, so that's the second type of frame. And hey, we have a comment from the chat. Felicia Hernandez. Buenos días, Lazy Arquitecto. Buenos días, Felicia. Thank you for being there. Okay, so we're gonna keep going. So the third border or type of frame here in AutoCAD that we should know before doing anything else is the Wipeout Frame. Yes, so I'm gonna create a quick wipeout over here. So, nothing fancy, simply just a quick wipeout like so. So wipeout, if you don't know, it's a way to hide objects or mask anything here in AutoCAD. So that's the wipeout. You can see it here from the quick property palette. So the third type of frame that we should know is the wipeout frame. So if we type wipeout frame, is right here. So there are many options, but again, 0 will turn the wipeout frame off and 1 will turn it on. So as you can see, the frame of this wipeout is showing, but if I set it to 0 and press enter, you can see that the wipeout frame is now not showing, which is nice. So again, if we use wipeout frame and set it to 1, it will bring the border of the wipeout on. All right, so that's the third type of frame here in AutoCAD. And then let's go with the next one, right? So the next one is gonna be the DGN frame. So a DGN is basically another type of CAD file similar to a DWG, but it is used mostly for big projects such as bridges and so on, and other CAD programs use it as MicroStation, for example. So it's always good to know, again, this type of frame or borders here. So again, we don't have a DGN file in this drawing right now, but it's good to know. And the way to turn the frames on and off for these DGN files is simply type in DGN frames. Again, if you set it to either 0 or 1, we'll turn it back on or off. And the number 2 is if you want them to show, but it won't print when you create your PDF or your printing object. Okay, so again, it's good to know DGN frame. And let's go with the next type of border or frame that exists here in AutoCAD. And the next one is going to be the Xref frame. So the Xref frame, or also called as Xclip Frame, is basically whenever you have an Xref is mostly a drawing that you bring. So let me bring an Xref right now, right? So if you open your Xref palette, I'm gonna simply quickly add or bring an Xref. So I'm gonna go here. Just gonna do it really quick because this is not about this is not about Xrefs, but it's about the frames or borders that we use, right? So let's bring this elevation as an Xref. So I'm gonna bring that and then say okay. So I just brought this Xref really quick. An Xref is an external reference. This can be a DWG, an image, or so on. Right now, this, if you can see it from the property panel, it says external reference. So to create an Xclip, of course, you can go here and create clipping boundary. So if you click from the ribbon, I'm gonna pick the rectangular option and simply Xclip it like that. So maybe I don't want to show anything else but the elevation. So now this is a Xref that has been Xclipped. So the important part here is borders and frames. So to turn this frame or border for this Xref, we're gonna need the Xclip frame. So once we use that, again, right now it's at 2. That means we can see the border, but it won't print or it won't show in your PDF. So we want to set it up to 0. Once we do that, the frame of your border, of your Xref border is gone. If you press enter to activate the Xclip frame again, and this time you set it to 1, you can see that the border is now shown. All right, so that's the next frame that you need to know here in AutoCAD. Let's go with the next one. And the next one is gonna be the OnlyFrame. So to explain you about the OnlyFrame, let me bring an Only or create an Only really quick. So let me open my Windows Explorer folder. So I'm gonna open this image over here because that's the image that I have at this moment, but you can do it with any image. So I'm gonna open it with, so open with and paint. So to create an Only image, you simply you can use a image program like Paint, which is free. You can simply select all with Control A, Control C to copy, and then you don't need Paint anymore. So here in AutoCAD, you can use the Control V, and then once you click to insert that, you can see that once you select it, it is not a raster image, but an only image this time. You can see it here from the property palette, from the quick property palette. So, and only images or only objects are simply object linking objects or embedding. And basically this means this image is embedded in this drawing. If you send this drawing to another person, you won't find these missing files or path or whatever, because this image is embedded in this drawing right now. So that's the use of only images, but this video is not about that, it's about frames. So let's change the border of frame to a color that we can see better. So again, to turn frames or borders off for only objects, we simply use the only frame, and then again it's 2 is showing right now, so let's set it to 0. Once we do that, you can see that nothing really happened, because all the objects are a little complex, a little weird in the way they behave. Even though we set up the frame to 0 to not show, it's still showing, right? So that's why we need to know these troubleshooting tips and tricks on the second part of this video. So, but the reason why it's not turning off is because all its objects need an extra step, and this extra step is to use the Regen command to refresh or regenerate the drawing. So once you use the Regen command, let's see what happened with the border now. As you can see, the border for the only image now is not showing, which is correct. Again, to turn the border on again, only frame, set it to 1. Again, the border is not showing because all the objects needs to regen the drawing. So again, regen, and once you do that, your border will now show. Okay, so the last frame or border that is important to go over is the viewport border. Why? Because there are many issues or issues that you should be aware of, so you don't waste time in the future, right? So let me go over viewport borders. So to explain you that, I'm gonna use this viewport right here. And the way this works is, so right now, this viewport, if I do a preview of this drawing, you can see that the border of this viewport is showing, right? So it's on. Now, how do you turn it off, right? The frame for the viewport. So there is no system variable or command that we can simply say 0 or 1 to turn the viewport frame on or off, but there is other ways to turn it off. So one way is to change the layer to depth point. So once you change to depth points layer, you can change it from the quick properties as well as from the home on the home panel. So once you do that and then do a preview, you can see that the border for your viewport is now off, which, you know, it's sometimes what you want. So another way to turn it off is, let me undo that. So right now, again, it's showing, is to create a brand new layer from the layers palette. So we're gonna create a layer, clicking this icon over here, new layer. So once you create a new layer, you know, you can call it viewport, and then you can turn or uncheck the plot icon. If you go over here, plot, if you go down, you can simply check that. So that way, when you place your viewport on the layer that you just create, which is viewport, right? Viewports. Now, if you try to PDF or print, it won't show because you created the correct layer to have your viewport frame off. All right, so that was really quick how to turn off or on the viewport frame. So I think at this point we already covered all of the type of frames and borders here in AutoCAD. So let's go to the second part of this live stream, which is giving you some troubleshooting tips and techniques so you don't have to waste time trying to figure out why your frames are not showing on or not showing off. So let's go over that part before we create our custom LazyFrame command to make our life easier. Okay, so let's go then with the second part. And one of the first troubleshooting tips would be to refresh your drawing whenever your frames are not showing. So again, use the Regen command if for some reason your frames are not showing the way they should, either being on or off. So try the regenerate command, right? That's one of the first tips that I will recommend. Another tip or troubleshooting technique that you're probably gonna need is sometimes when you turn off or on your image frame, let's say I'm gonna do image frame, right? I'm gonna set it to 0. So this time it worked, but there are cases where it won't work. Your image, even though you set it up to 0, it will still show the image frame. So whenever you have that situation, a troubleshooting technique that I use that always work is set your image frame again to 1, and then try again image frame to 0. So that technique, I always use it and it always worked for me. So try it. Okay, that would be the second troubleshooting tip that I have for you. And the last one, the third one, would be regarding your viewport border or frame. So sometimes happen that, let me put it to depth point layers. So sometimes happens that you cannot select your viewport frame. I think it usually happens on an old AutoCAD versions because AutoCAD already fixed this issue or glitch in the latest versions. I'm using AutoCAD 2022 right now. But one of the issues that I saw always, especially my friends at work, is that you cannot select your viewport. So whenever you cannot select your viewport, it's probably because you have your viewports on depth points layers, and then your layer 0 is frozen. So this is again a glitch from AutoCAD. It looks like in this version of 2022, they already fixed that issue, because even though my layer 0 is frozen with this icon, I can still select it, which is nice, right? But I know many other folks, they have this problem where they cannot select their viewport. So again, if you're having that problem, simply check that your layer 0 is not frozen, okay? And you would be able to select your viewport. All right, so those are some quick troubleshooting tips for working with frames and borders here in AutoCAD. So now that we went over mostly all of the type of frames and borders, We also give you some tips or troubleshooting techniques. The third step is to create a quick command or tool that will make our life easier. And this tool, I call it LazyFrame. And it's basically a command to toggle between frames on and off for all of your frames in your drawing, right? So we don't need to worry about, okay, what was that name, image frame? What was the other system variable? OnlyFrame, like so many different times that we already went over. So let's do it. Let's create your custom. I call it LazyFrame command. Okay, so let's do it. All right. So to create this command, we're gonna go over. Let me go to model space here. So we're gonna go and use the CUI shortcut here on your keyboard. So once you press enter using the CUI, let me fix this window so you can see better. So this is the customized user interface in AutoCAD. And you can create a command using this start icon. But again, if you already know me a bit, here in the Lazy Arquitecto, we never start from scratch. We always like to reuse anything that AutoCAD already created. So we simply reuse them so we don't waste time, okay? So following that idea, I'm gonna find a frame command over here. So AutoCAD already have toggle frames. So I'm gonna start with this command and I'm gonna duplicate it, right? So once I right click here, I can pick duplicate. So once I duplicate, I already have a nice icon. I already have all of this information. So I can simply edit it and quickly create my new LazyFrame command. So I'm gonna call it or rename it LazyFrame. And this command, the image frame, the frame command, it's nice, but you only toggle or turn on and off certain type of frames, but not all of the frames in AutoCAD. That's what we're trying to achieve with this command, right? To turn on and off quickly everything, basically, only objects frames, image frames, PDFs frames, basically everything. So you don't have to worry about remember commands, settings, or anything. All right, so that's why we are trying to achieve with this new command. So to have this LazyFrame command always available, simply select it and select it over here with left click, and we're gonna click and holding it, we're gonna drag it all the way up here to the quick properties, to the quick access panel. This is called the quick access. So once you release it, you can see that your LazyFrame will show up there. That's the easiest and fastest way to have any new command available. Of course, I like to put it here in the ribbon, but that's more complex, and we can go over that in a future live stream. If you are interested, just let me know. But at this point, here is the fastest way. So once you do that, the third step is to click over here on the macro option. So once you click these three dots, we're gonna modify this so we can make this custom command work. All right, and the way we're gonna do it is we're gonna create a macro, of course. So the first thing that we're gonna do is erase this over here, and we're gonna keep the CC option. Why? Because this is a way to cancel any active command or running command, so we can start fresh, right? So we don't have any problems by using this command. So CC to cancel any active command. And then what we're gonna do is start we're gonna use a diesel expression. So in order to start a diesel expression, we're gonna use these symbols. I'm gonna use the caps so that way USB symbol equals and then this. So basically P is simply to it's called menu echo, and basically it's a way to suppress all of these options on the command line. So when we run this command, you don't have all of this garbage information that we don't need on the command line. So it's nice and clean. And simply the M and this option over here is a way to let AutoCAD that we're starting a diesel expression or function here. So, and our diesel expression is going to be inside this parentheses. So that's simply to, let AutoCAD know that we're starting this diesel code, okay? So once we have that, then we're going to use the if formula. So the if formula, again, we need to use this character that shows that we're using diesel expression or macro. So once we have that, we're gonna say, first let me write the macro and then I'm gonna explain you. All right, so let me explain you. So right here, we're using the if formula to say if, only if the frame, the value of the frame is 0. So frame is a system variable that will toggle PDF frames, image frames, wipeout frames, DGN frames, either on or off. So that's why we're using the system variable frame. But frame won't toggle all the objects frames. So that's why we need to add a little bit more of code here. But we're saying if frame is bigger than 0. So if frame is 1, 2, or 3 or whatever, we want AutoCAD to do something, right? And what we want to do is, if this is true, we want frame to be 0. We also want OnlyFrame to be 0. And then to Regen. So again, if frame is more than 0, if it's 1, 2, or 3, we want AutoCAD to set the frame to 0. Also set OnlyFrame to 0 and also Regen. Why? Because OnlyFrames need this Regen command, right? We already explained why. So again, let's keep with this code. So once we have that, let's start with the second piece of code. Right. So now we also want if the Oops, I missed something here. If okay, so now here with this piece of code, we're saying also if the value of OnlyFrame is more than 0 or bigger than 0. So if OnlyFrame is 1 or 2, right? Those options, we want AutoCAD to do something also. And what we want to do is set frame to 0, and also set OnlyFrame to 0. And then also, of course, Regen. Okay, so that's what we want to do. And then otherwise, we want, so if this is false, if this doesn't happen, then we want also AutoCAD to do something else. And what we want to do is set the frames to 1, set OnlyFrame to 1, and then finally Regen. Okay, so that's our final piece of code, and we're gonna test it right now to see if there are errors or not, so we can quickly fix it. So you have your quick command to toggle all of your frames on and off quickly. Okay, so again, this last part, just to finish explaining, was or I'm going to explain all of that quickly again. So we're saying, hey, we're using the diesel expression. Okay, so AutoCAD knows that. And we're saying if, only if, get bar means the value of the frame system variable here in AutoCAD is bigger than 0. I want AutoCAD to do this, which is set the frame to 0, set the OnlyFrame to 0, and regenerate my drawing. Also, if the value of OnlyFrame is equal to, is more than 0, I want AutoCAD to set the frame to 0, OnlyFrame to 0, and then regenerate again. So otherwise, if this is false, right, then I want AutoCAD to set frame to 1, OnlyFrame to 1 also, and then regenerate my drawing. Okay, so that's the piece of code that we need, and we're gonna test it. Would this command work? Let's see, right? So at this point, simply apply and click OK. All right, so we have many frames over here. We have Wipeout Frame, we have image frames, we have OnlyFrames. I believe we have also Xclip Frame. So we have all type of frames here. So let's test our command. So once you click over here, so click. So it's turning on and off wipeouts image frame, but it's not turning off the only option. So let's fix that. Probably there is something wrong with our code, so don't panic. This is common when you're trying to create a brand new command, but we're gonna fix it. So let's go back to the CUI. Let's file our lazy frame command. It's right here. Hopefully I So let's double check the code. So we're saying if get bar frame is more than 0, then I want frame 0, OnlyFrame 0, Regen. If get bar OnlyFrame 0, then set frame to 0, OnlyFrame to 0, Regen, otherwise frame to 1, OnlyFrame to 1, and then Regen. So let's count the parentheses, because sometimes if you have an extra parenthesis, that also will cause issues. So let's see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then on the other side you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 6 and 6, so that should be fine then. I don't know why it's not working. So let me see something here. PM if get bar frame 0. So I'm trying to troubleshoot this macro code right now live, because for some reason it's not working. It worked for me before, but maybe I'm just missing one character or something. So if I'm just trying to compare really quick. So LazyFrame 0 if Regen if get bar LazyFrame, 0.
You sleep, Shayden.
Yeah.
It's better. It's better now.
Frame 1.
I don't hear you now. I don't hear you on the river. I hear you. You're not going to work? Going to work?
Yeah. So I don't know why this piece of code is not working right now. It did for me before. So I'm gonna have to come back with the correct piece of code again, because again it's not toggle. It's toggling the frames for wipeouts and images, as you can see, but it's not doing it for the only images, even though we are regenerating our drawing, right? So you can see. So I'm gonna have to double check the code myself later, and I'll probably do a quick update, just maybe 1 minute update with the correct code, or explain you what happened, or where did I make the mistake. All right. So, but again, you can see, hopefully this tutorial on borders and frames in AutoCAD was helpful to you. We went over many different techniques. We explained all of the frames that exist in AutoCAD, and finally we failed, but we were trying to create a command to toggle frames on and off. Again, it's working for wipeouts, for image frames, and more, but it's not working for the Oli objects. Like I told you, all the objects are stubborn. So let's get to you. I'm gonna get to you back maybe with a 1 minute video short or update on what was my mistake to now be able to turn the frames on and off. Okay, so thank you for being there. Let's see if you have questions or not at this point. Before I let's see, there we have 6 people in the comments right now. Thank you for being there. Thanks for being here today. I know it's hard, usually on Saturdays morning, to be awake, but so we have a comment from Nick Robinson. Hi, Nick. Nick Robinson, he's asking, I remember having an issue with getting the frame lines on the wipeout to disappear, and I never knew that you could create commands. Very useful information. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, Nick, you can create commands. Actually, I created all of these commands here on the channel. These all are custom commands. And if you want more new commands, we have on the channel this playlist called AutoCAD macros for automatic drawings, and it's basically all of the commands that we have. So let me see if I can find it. So maybe I could find it. So if you go here, home, so that's my YouTube channel, and if you go here, you can see that I have these AutoCAD macros for automatic drawings playlist, and again there are lazy wall, lazy transparency, and so on. So you can check it out after this live stream if you want to know more about it. So there is another comment from Interest. He says, thank you, man. Thank you for being here, people. And we're gonna be live next Saturday again around this time, 9:30 a.m. So if you want to save time in AutoCAD, learn more about this program, definitely show up. Okay. So he's saying, Interest have another question. Says, do you have any idea how to get the length along a polyline? How to get the length along a polyline? I don't know what you mean by that. Maybe you can clarify, but if you have a polyline, right? So that's a polyline. You say you can get the length. Well, the length, you can simply type properties or open the property palette, and then you can see it here. There's gotta be an option for length. It's 6 feet and 3 inches. Oh shoot, sorry, my screen is not showing. Sorry. But so that's a polyline again. You can see it here. And to get the length, simply go over here on the properties palette, and then you'll see 6 feet and 3 inches. So that's the length. I think that's what you mean. interrace. So hope I answer your question. Oh, he's saying not the length of the whole line, the length at a given point. I think I did a video about this that you might be interested in terrace. Let me show you over here. Hopefully I can find it. Length. I think this is the video that you are interested. Autocad trick to label line distance. I think that's the video that you should watch after this live stream. I think that's where your answer is, my friend. All right, so yep. Thank you for being there in Therese. All right, so thank you for being here, people. We are still 5 people on the chat, and that's awesome. Hopefully, we can keep growing this community here on the Lazy Arquitecto. I'm just trying to share a little bit of my knowledge each weekend, trying to stop you from wasting time, right? Because your time is important, so you should share it with the people that you love, right? AutoCAD is simply a tool. Actually, when I work in AutoCAD, I'm having fun, right? Whenever I feel like I'm stressed or something, I'm probably doing it the wrong way. There's probably a faster way to do it, and I always try to find it so I can share it with you, right? So if there is no more comments, so yeah, there is one more question. So Interest is asking, what time next week? What time zone? So the time zone, I'm not really good at it, but I'm just gonna quickly do it. Time zone, because again, I'm not from the US. I'm from Peru in South America. So I came here when I was 21 years old. So that's why I'm gonna quickly do it. Philadelphia, PA. So I quickly research the time zone. It's Eastern Standard Time. So that's the time interrace that you need to know. The time zone for Philadelphia, PA. Okay. So thank you, people, for being here all this long. Hope you learned something new today. And as always, this tutorial or live stream comes thanks to my supporters who support or believe on what I do. Thank you for being there, either on Patreon or support or showing your support as a YouTube member. Thank you very much. See you next time.